Good morning. It is March 14th, 2024, and I am excited to be joined today by folks from our vendor partner, EBSCO. Primarily, I think we'll be hearing from Robert Faith, who's going to be talking to us about Panorama, but you can see that Paula Brewster and Daniel Herrick are here on the call as well. So I think we should just get right into it here. Robert, I'm going to stop sharing my screen,
Okay.
and that should allow you to share yours.
Okay. Sorry, I just switching from Teams to Zoom. Everybody says that, but I really mean it, so I think I have it here. Okay. Hope you all can see my screen here.
Yeah, we're seeing PowerPoint now.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, so I guess I'll take it away then. Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you to everybody who's either attending this or takes the time later to watch this. My name is Rob Faith. I work on EBSCO's software services team as a Panorama specialist. This is my second time presenting for WiLS, so really appreciate you all giving us the time and the opportunity to come back. I'm always excited to revisit Panorama with those who have seen it maybe some time ago. So what I want to do today is provide kind of a, for some of you who are watching this, this all might be new to you. For some, maybe you've heard of Panorama and have seen it before, but I have something for you folks as well. There's a few things that, a few exciting updates that we're happy to share as well. So I'll take you through just a very quick slide deck and then jump into a live demo. And we'll certainly have plenty of time during this hour for Q&A. And of course, for anyone who is watching this later on, I'll have my email address, my contact information. Always feel free to reach out with any questions that you might have about Panorama. So just to start, Panorama, what is it? Panorama is EBSCO's library analytics software service. It's relatively new. We first launched this back in the summer of 2021. So it's been on the market for going on 3 years now, and we've certainly come a long way since we have launched Panorama. Today, just to give you some sense of adoption of Panorama, today we have about 135, maybe closer to 140 libraries around the world that are using some version of Panorama. So for any EBSCO hosted folio library out there, they do get kind of a streamlined light version of Panorama, but we also have a more robust version of Panorama as well. So between those two, we have about 135, 140 customers and it's really been worldwide. About half of them are in North America, and half are scattered throughout the rest of the world. So it's really been exciting to see Panorama really resonate with librarians and really take off. So we're very excited about this. Just to jump in here, in terms of just the origins of Panorama, what is the reason that EBSCO decided to go ahead and build a product like Panorama? I think it really does emerge from a basic recognition that librarians have a lot of stories that they need to tell with their data. They want to be able to see that bigger picture of how how their patrons, how their researchers are making use of your library resources and services. And sometimes that can be a very difficult thing to do. It sounds great, and a lot of librarians really see the importance of being able to do that, but there do tend to be a few major problems or pain points that tend to get in the way of being able to see that picture. And in the first place, just at a very basic level, of course, many of you are using multiple different, library systems or services or tools every single day. You're generating a lot of activity and data from your ILS. Maybe you're using a discovery platform for your library. You have all of these other tools that you are providing to your patrons that give them the opportunity to interact with the library in various ways. And as a result, a lot of those tools tend to have their own reporting functionality natively. And so as a result, it becomes very easy to build up these data silos where you just find yourself going into multiple different systems to pull the data that you need. And it can be very time consuming, very cumbersome. So this kind of does lead into the third bullet point, where really data collection and analysis tends to be a very manual and time-consuming process. Going to all of these different systems manually. For a lot of librarians, we know that there's an awful lot of data that tends to be tracked even in Excel files, Excel spreadsheets. So maybe you are familiar with, having vendor electronic resource reports just kind of stashed in Excel spreadsheets, or maybe your library is tracking things like gate counts, excuse me, in a spreadsheet or something like that. So not to dunk on Excel because I use it every day, but the point here is that there's a lot of data that's just kind of scattered in many different places, and as a result, it can make it very difficult to kind of gather all of that data together. Some librarians too, they might not have the technical expertise or the data expertise to work with certain tools. Maybe this is something they want to do, but again, it takes time to learn how to use tools and things like that. So these tend to be really ubiquitous pain points throughout the academic library world. So we recognize this. We also recognize that there are other reporting tools out there that you might be familiar with. So certainly in the academic library landscape, the two most common competitors, you could say, to Panorama are LibInsight from SpringShare. That's their library analytics tool within the SpringShare suite of products. And then for Alma libraries out there, they might be using Alma Analytics or Ex Libris Analytics. Both of these tools, again, are library analytics tools, but they also have some major shortcomings that do very little, if anything, really to address the three pain points that you saw in the previous slide. If you take a tool like SpringShare's LibInsight, what's nice about it is that you can work with lots of different kinds of library data, but there's very little to no automation possible beyond any other SpringShare tools that you might have. So this is a tool that you can certainly put a lot of library data into, but it has to be done very manually. So there's very little automation behind it. Whereas with something like Alma Analytics, it's very much constrained to Alma data only. So Alma Analytics really does work off of its own, major data silo. So, we looked at these offerings out there, and there's certainly others as well. You might be familiar with tools like Power BI. There are other kinds of analytics or business intelligence tools out there. But we really did at EBSCO, we really did see a great opportunity to build a better analytics tool to offer to our customers, and that's why we came up with Panorama, which again launched in the summer of 2021. So it's still relatively new. Um, and really our main goal of Panorama is to help capture all of those important library engagement metrics that you have that are important to your day-to-day reporting workflows, to capture as many of those metrics as possible in one central place, with the ultimate goal to save you countless hours of time and energy, and really to enhance your existing workflows around pulling data together and being able to dig into it and do the kinds of analysis of that user engagement with your library that you want to do or need to do. So what we're doing with Panorama is we're able to combine data from all of these disparate library systems and disparate library tools to streamline your reporting workflows. And now also, because we are centralizing all of your important library data in one place, you'll have that data at your fingertips, so to speak, and so that can make it easier for you to possibly uncover some key insights or trends or correlations about how your library is being used, what services, what resources are your patrons interacting with most. Could maybe also help you to tell a story around, um, you know, what are some stories of success? Where's the library? Some areas in which the library is succeeding, as well as areas in which the library might be falling short, or maybe just being able to more easily identify areas of need within the library. And ultimately, this is what we want Panorama to be able to do for our library customers out there. It is a vendor agnostic tool, which is great, which is exciting for us because we know that there are a lot of libraries out there that, maybe some use a lot of different EBSCO products, maybe some not so much. but we really did set out to design Panorama to be the optimal library analytics solution for every library out there, regardless of whether your library is using Alma or EBSCO Folio or Sierra, Symphony, etc. To mention, not to mention a lot of other tools that I'll show you in a few moments here, but it works with a wide range of different systems. So we can really offer this to really every library out there, which is very exciting for us. And as you'll see, whenever I do jump into the live demo in a few moments, what we have built on the front end of Panorama are a number of visual dashboards. We're using Tableau for that. So we've built a number of different dashboards to allow you to really dig into your data. There's a lot of really dynamic visualizations possible within Tableau, but all of these dashboards are customizable and configurable. Certainly one major area of development, and I would say ever since we launched the product, from day one, the most heavily requested reporting functionality for Panorama was, how can we leverage the platform to help automate some of these region-specific national reports, not just here in the States, but also in a lot of different regions of the world. Here in the States, we have the ACRL, the IPEDS, the ARL reports, and many regions around the world have an analog report to that. There are a couple of different ones in Canada. The UK does something similar, Australia, New Zealand do something similar, and we recognize very quickly that this really is a major pain point for really all academic libraries, because these are a lot of these reports are required, they have to do for accreditation purposes. And the reason why they are a pain point goes back to really speaks to all three of the points you saw a couple of slides ago, where a lot of this data is scattered in different places. It's very difficult to automate. So thankfully now with Panorama, we can automate a great deal of those reports, which is also very very exciting for our customers. In terms of Panorama development, Panorama is a platform, as you imagine, and as I alluded to, that continues to grow and evolve over time. We're constantly adding new data source integrations to Panorama, which I'll talk about in a second. And we're also we're constantly building new dashboards for our customers as well. Sometimes we are making, enhancements to existing dashboards. Other times we're building new dashboards based around a new data source integration, something like DSpace or Iliad or something like that. So I mentioned Tableau already, but in terms of just to kind of round out the technology behind Panorama, we're using Tableau as the front end. That's really the only part of the platform that you as the end user would be working in. But we're also leveraging AWS as the data lake to store all of your library data. We're using Snowflake as the data warehouse to kind of organize that, filter that into the dashboards that you would then see that data. So a big part of how kind of the magic sauce behind Panorama, and the thing that really does separate, or certainly one thing that really does separate what Panorama can do versus SpringShare, Alma, other analytics tools on the market, is that we are able to leverage automation routines to get your data flowing from those library or campus systems into Panorama automatically. So with any kind of a modern tool or system, we can leverage the different APIs that are associated with that system. But we can also work with older legacy systems as well. So a good example here is if you think kind of compare and contrast authentication tools like EasyProxy and OpenAthens. With EasyProxy, this is a real true legacy authentication system that hasn't changed within 25 years, if not more. Doesn't have any APIs, but we still have workflows scripted out in place to help automate as much of that process as possible. Whereas a more modern authentication system like OpenAthens has a robust reporting API. So it's very easy for us to just leverage that API to harvest that authentication data into Panorama seamlessly. So it really depends on the source system with Panorama. But that's really how we make this work. And ultimately, what we want to do is what you see on this slide here. And the reality here is that Whereas what you as librarians are doing, or certainly a big part of what you're doing, is you are offering all of these different services and tools to your researchers, to your patrons, to help save them time, if whether they're using a discovery platform or other tools. And Panorama is designed specifically for you, the librarian. We want to save you time in gathering all of this data together in one place and doing the kinds of analysis and reporting that you need to do. So the Panorama is absolutely a tool designed to save librarians loads of time, resources, and headaches. And what we found just really from the early stages of Panorama development in surveying librarians, interviewing them, trying to understand, what does your workflow look like when it comes to reporting? We found that it very much looks something like the graphic you see on the left hand of the slide here. This is really the typical workflow, it seems, when it comes to how librarians are pulling all of their data together, sifting through it, collating it, normalizing it, however they have to do that, and then finally reporting. And as you can see from that graphic, the vast majority of the time spent within this workflow, within this process, is spent manually harvesting that data, from different sources, different library systems or tools, different Excel spreadsheets, and so on, manipulating that data. And it really does tend to leave very little time to do the kinds of analysis that need to be done. Whereas with Panorama, if we now look over to the graphic on the right hand of the slide here, this is how we want to change the game here. We have these, because we are managing the data architecture for our customers on the back end, we have all of these pre-built integrations to different library systems, and in some cases, different campus systems. We have all of these pre-built dashboards within Panorama, different ways for you to conveniently work with your data. We're trying to automate as much of that process as possible so that you can not only save time when it comes to reporting and analysis, but also giving you back time to do other things, to do other important initiatives or projects that you have ongoing at the library. Because while you might be used to spending a lot of time just manually pulling these reports, you could do something else, right? You could do something else more important, or something else that needs to be done, particularly for those libraries that might be strained in terms of personnel, in terms of resources. So we want to automate as much of that process as possible for our customers to ultimately save them a lot of time, not just doing the kinds of reporting that needs to be done, but also to do other things and other priorities. So in terms of the different data sources, you might hear me use the terms data sources and integrations interchangeably. So I hope I don't confuse anybody here, but I share this slide just to give you some sense of the kind of the range of different data sources for which we have integrations for Panorama. And this is not an exhaustive list here. I think we have about 28 data source integrations for Panorama in total. So you see a little over a dozen on the screen here. But what you should notice from this slide is two things. One, this is not constrained to the EBSCO ecosystem. Right. Of course, we do have integrations to Folio, to things like EBSCO usage consolidation for your counter reports, EDS, and so forth. Of course, we have those, but we also have a number of integrations to other, non-EBSCO third-party systems as well. Things like different SpringShare tools, or Easy Proxy, or even Banner, student information systems, different people counter systems. And the second thing that you should notice here, just kind of from that small inventory there, is there's a wide range of different library systems that you see on the screen here. Every system you see on the screen here contributes some form of engagement metrics or engagement data to painting that bigger picture of how your users and patrons are making use of your library resources and services. So all of these taken together do contribute some meaningful engagement data to the bigger picture of what's going on there. And as I said too, we're constantly working on with libraries that come on board to Panorama that might have a data source that we don't have a connection for. We work with these libraries to build out those connections, and once we have those integrations in place, then we can offer them to other libraries that are using those and could benefit from those as well. A Panorama really is a customizable analytics solution. So every library using Panorama is able to choose which specific integrations they want to start with. So an example configuration could be what you see on the top left of the slide here. There might be a folio library out there that comes on board to Panorama. They're getting their counter report data through EBSCO usage consolidation. And then they might also opt for an integrations to things like Open Athens or Full Text Finder, another EBSCO product, to PASA, or a number of other interlibrary loan systems we have, SpringShare and so on. And once we start putting those integrations in place, customers will see their data flowing into the different dashboards that then become available as they come online during the implementation process. So once we have those connections in place, you'll see your dashboard start to populate with your library engagement data. This slide is a little out of date, slightly out of date. You can see on the bottom here some of these integrations under available now and coming soon. We actually do have, but again, there's multiple other data sources that are available to libraries that want to use Panorama. And Panorama is also designed, it really is an analytics tool designed to meet your data needs where they are today, but also over time. We certainly understand that these reporting needs can also change over time. So if a library wanted to come on board with this configuration you see on the slide here, maybe a couple of years down the road, they might want to start working with, maybe they want to add their a connection to EDS or to Primo, a discovery platform, or maybe they want to add an interlibrary loan connection or something like that. That is also possible as well. So Panorama is really designed to meet your data needs where they are today, but also down the road as those needs change, so too can your Panorama can evolve to accommodate those changes as well. And one thing I did want to share before I jump into the demo is that, and this might be brand new, I think, for WiLS members. I don't remember sharing this last year, but we have also been working with a number of different academic library consortia around the world. This is something that we've been working with a couple of different groups on different projects. The two that are represented on this slide here, we've been working with. I think it's the biggest academic library consortium in South Korea. It's called CARIS. So we have a consortia, a Panorama consortia reporting functionality for CARIS. Basically, what that looks like is they have 187 different libraries within that consortia, and we've provided one centralized Panorama instance to the central office, and it allows them to track electronic resource usage across all 187 institutions, so they can filter by each institution. I can't. Which is what you see here. We've also been working closely with Skelk on a similar kind of Panorama consortia reporting functionality, but this time using iPads data, just kind of using being able to track iPads across all of the, I can't remember how many Skelk members there are, but across all of the different Skelk member institutions, tracking iPads data to help with benchmarking and things like that. So this has been another exciting development for Panorama over the past I would say year and a half now. Since we've started working with different consortia groups. There are also other use cases that we have in the development pipeline for consortia, but I just wanted to share this with you today, just so you have some sense of what's possible now in terms of Panorama and consortia reporting functionality. So it's very exciting for us as well. All right, so with that, I'm going to transition from the slide deck here and jump over to the live platform here. So I'll start at the very beginning. So I'm actually in the demo instance of Panorama for the purposes of this call here. So when you come into Panorama, there are a few different ways that you can interact with the platform. I've been talking a lot about the different dashboards that we have pre-built, and every single dashboard that I'll show you today, all of them in total, are dashboards that we at EBSCO didn't just develop by ourselves, kind of in a box in a lab. We actually worked or partnered with libraries to build every single dashboard you see. So again, in that way, every dashboard that we have within Panorama really is inspired by real use cases by real libraries to solve a number of different pain points or problems. So there's a lot of that to show within Panorama. But I also wanted to mention as well that with Panorama, because we are using Tableau as that front end interaction piece, Tableau actually does allow you to build your own dashboards within Panorama. So we do include the appropriate user license to do that. So if you are so inclined, it's totally optional. But libraries that are using Panorama always have the option of either building dashboards from the ground up, and we have a few different kind of examples here under the custom dashboard folder. So it does allow you to either build new dashboards from scratch from the ground up, or you can also change or augment any existing dashboard that we have. You can basically Tableau allows you to basically make a copy of that dashboard, or they call it a workbook technically, and then you can make changes as you want to. If you want to add different graphs or visualizations, or there's really a lot of customization potential within Panorama. I certainly am no Tableau expert, so I've not tried my hand at building a dashboard, but the option is very much there. And as I said, within Panorama, the bulk of the action is going to be within any of a number of the dashboards that we've built for the platform to date. So I think maybe this time last year, the last time that I presented this to WiLS, we probably had about maybe 25 or 26 dashboards. Today, we have, I think we're up to 35 or 36. So you can see all of them here. They're all listed out here. You can see the thumbnails for a thumbnail for each dashboard. And these are appearing here in alphabetical order, starting with ACRL historical, all the way down to student outcomes. And really each of these dashboards, again, is ultimately designed to help contribute to that bigger picture of library engagement, to give you as the librarian a better understanding of what's going on within the library across all of this different activity. A lot of these dashboards are built around one specific data source. So something like Easy Proxy or Open Athens, I mentioned earlier, we do have a dedicated dashboard for each of those authentication platforms. Some of our dashboards are actually pulling in data from multiple different data sources simultaneously. So it really depends on the data source, and it depends on the specific dashboard that we're looking at. So I'll certainly show you examples of both as I go along here. And I think I always think that the best place to start within Panorama is really from the top down, because within Panorama we ultimately do want to provide our customers with a wide range of different views, viewing levels, and insights into library engagement. So something like the library overview dashboard that you see in front of you now is really a good entry point into Panorama, because it does a really good job of giving you that kind of high-level view of how your library is doing according to whatever metrics you want to see displayed here. So one thing to take note of is that for some of the dashboards within Panorama, like the one you're seeing now, there really is a high level of flexibility and customization, even during configuration, because what you're seeing right now is an example of what one library has chosen to have represented in their overview dashboard. We're pulling in data from a lot of data from their ILS, which in this case, this is an ALMA library. So we're pulling in things like circulation data, other kinds of collections data, and budgetary data. We're pulling in electronic resource usage data from EBSCO usage consolidation, which you can see here. But if your library, maybe you're looking at this, and these are exactly the kinds of metrics that you would be happy to see on your overview dashboard, just to take a quick pulse of how your library is doing. But if you wanted to see something different here, maybe you would want to see something, reference or instruction interactions from a SpringShare module represented here. As long as we have that integration connected for you, we can pull as much of that data into this dashboard as you want. So this is a good example of a dashboard that might not look the same for everybody, depending on what your needs are, depending on what kinds of metrics you want to see displayed here. But it's still a good entry point. You'll notice as I go through these dashboards that every single dashboard in Panorama does come with a number of different filters along the top. The overview is limited only to a date filter. So as soon as you toggle or adjust any of these filters, you'll see the data refresh here and near almost instantly. So if we go back, by default, I think every dashboard is set to go back exactly one calendar year. But if you go back farther back in time, you'll see this data will change. If you want to do more of a longitudinal analysis of library engagement, things like circulation trends or something, budgetary trends, something like that, you can do that. All of the data that we have flowing in Panorama in terms of historical data, well, there's no official outer bound as far as how much historical data you can put into Panorama from any particular data source. Ultimately, it really does depend on the data source. So if you have 5 or 10 years of circulation data, that can all show up that will all show up in Panorama, and we don't we don't have any data caps or anything like that. So it really depends on the specific data source that we're integrating with. And so from here, maybe you want to do a little deeper dive into a more specific area of library engagement, maybe to look at something like electronic resource usage. So we do have a couple of different dashboards within Panorama that are really built around showing different areas of engagement around e-resource usage. This dashboard here is designed to really to kind of summarize how your various electronic resources are being used across your institution or across campus, across the library. So this is pulling in data from one specific data source, that being EBSCO usage consolidation. That's one counter tool that we have that is compatible with Panorama. If your library is using Alma, and you're storing your counter data in Alma Analytics, we also have an integration with that. So now that we are working in working with a more specific data set, you'll notice along the top here that there are additional filters that we can work with. Every dashboard in Panorama has a date filter, so that certainly hasn't changed. But because we are looking at electronic resource usage, we can also filter by things like report code. We can filter by platform and publisher. One new feature that I think is certainly worth calling out to, because as we've often showed we often show Panorama to customers. They might look at the dashboards and they say this looks really great, but I'm not always sure what I'm looking at. We've also added this this functionality here at the top right of every Panorama dashboard. It's super tiny here. I hope you can see it, but there is an info button. And if you click on that info button, that will take you to our EBSCO Connect page. And that's basically, this will basically give you additional information on the specific dashboard that you're looking at. So if I scroll down here, it gives you a very nice dashboard description. It walks you through, kind of gives you a user manual for what metrics are that you're looking at and things like that. So just a very helpful and much requested feature that we've recently added to Panorama. So we're happy about that. Oh, sorry, but I'll go back to this dashboard here. So we have now we can work within different filters here, as I pointed out. And what we try to do with a lot of our dashboards that are built around one specific data set or data source, like your counter reports, is we do try to provide a range of different views. And you'll notice that in a lot of our Panorama dashboards tend to follow a similar kind of pattern whereby the first couple of visualizations or graphs that you see are really designed to give you kind of the high level raw data. So here you can very easily get the raw numbers around things like total item requests, the delta over the previous year, things like that. That's usually followed by some sort of year over year comparison. And you can look at things like journal requests, how are those trending over time? So those are kind of big picture longitudinal um, ways of looking at your data, but you can also drill down into more specific areas of your counter report data as well, looking at things like cross-platform comparisons to looking at usage there, title level details, which titles are getting the most numbers of unique item requests or whatever metric you happen to be filtering by. So again, we try to provide a lot of different types of views into looking at your data, both at a very high level and also to drill down at a more micro level as well. And this dashboard here is a great example of kind of going back to what I mentioned in the presentation about how, we have a lot of these data source integrations. Some of them are capable of full automation, like EBSCO usage consolidation, like Alma, Folio, EDS, things like that. But we also have a number of integrations with systems that, maybe aren't fully automated or not capable of that. But we try to do the best we can as far as uh, trying to automate as much of the data flow as possible. I think a really good example of that would be if you think about different interlibrary loan systems. We have a few different integrations. We have integrations to a few different ILL systems. We have Tapasa. We have, actually, let me change this. I don't know why this defaulted to one day. Sorry about that. We'll get some more data in here. Something like Tapasa, what you see here. Here we have we're using a mix of things like APIs and manual file loads, monthly file loads, something like that. So there are some data sources like Tapasa or actually, I know a better example here would be Iliad. I know Iliad showed up on that slide earlier as coming soon, but we just recently released this, so we're really happy about that. Many libraries out there are using Iliad as a really a core interlibrary loan system, but this is a really good example of a data source that is kind of partly automated. We can pull some data from that API, but it also does require the customer to run some manual reports. In this case, I think just once a month. Once they do that and they FTP that data to us, we can get that into Panorama. So in some cases, we are really just working within the limitations of other third-party vendors like OCLC and so on. So we are doing what we can, and what we have found over time as well is that even some of these some integrations that are still very manual, like Easy Proxy, we have found kind of shortcuts to streamline that workflow, streamline that process. So this is something that as we continue to work with customers, we continue to find new ways of streamlining the workflows around how to get this data into Panorama. So we do try to automate as much as possible, but we can't always do that. But we still can get that data into Panorama. And just to give you kind of a look at some of the different metrics that you could glean from a system like Iliad, just to give you different borrowing and lending statistics, looking at things like requests, turnaround time, requests by patron group. There's actually really a lot of data that can be pulled out of a system like Iliad into Panorama. And unlike the previous dashboard that I just showed you, that was one dashboard built off of Tapasa, and it had a lot of those metrics just confined to one dashboard. But not every system is the same either, even if it's within the same class of system. So with interlibrary loan systems, with Tapasa, we have one single dashboard that gives you as many metrics as we can pull out of that. But with an Iliad, some of the dashboards we have in Panorama, you'll notice we have one dashboard with multiple different views. So the first view here for Iliad is giving you a lot of borrowing statistics. If I tab over to the second view, this will give you lending statistics. So if you scroll down here, you can get a better sense of, what are some of the metrics or data points that we can pull from Iliad into this dashboard here around lending. And then finally, document delivery. So there's really, depending on the data source, you might find that there are, multiple different dashboards with multiple different views within Panorama. Some of them only have one. So it really depends on the native data source. But just to give you a sense of what kinds of data can be pulled from a system like an interlibrary loan system. And then, as I mentioned earlier too, certainly the most highly requested reporting function within Panorama was how can we use this platform to help automate things like iPads and ACRL reports. This is something that my staff and I do every single year. We hate it every single year. It requires dozens and dozens of hours, a lot of personnel, a lot of time to do. Please, can you help us out with a tool like Panorama? So out of the box, or I should say at launch, we didn't have this, but about 2 years or so ago, we developed a dashboard specifically for the different national reports that you need to do every year. So you're looking at the iPads dashboard here. We have a similar dashboard for reports like ACRL and ARL. And again, depending on the region, what region you're in, Canada's going to have their own two national reporting dashboards that we're working on right now with a couple of libraries up there. But very straightforward. Certainly doesn't look very glamorous, but these are examples of just a purely functional reporting dashboard within Panorama. What we're able to do to populate these is we're able to leverage all of the different connections to the main library systems that have data required for the iPads report and the ACRL report. So if we are connected to a library's ILS, if we're pulling in their counter report data, their interlibrary loan data, gate counts, reference and instruction data, all together in sum, we can automate about 80 to 85% of the iPads and ACRL report, which is great. We're not at 100%. There are some additional required data fields around things like staff salary ranges, maybe student demographics or things like that that you might need to track down manually from a different system. But we can cover about 80 to 85% of these reports automatically, and even just that is a huge lift. It will save library. It has been saving librarians now that we're the third year in here. We'll be saving them loads of time year after year after year, so they don't have to excuse me, so they don't have to go to all of these different, excuse me, one second. Sorry, something got caught in my throat. So they no longer have to go to multiple different places or multiple different systems to gather that data that's required for iPads or ACRL. They can do most of that report automatically here within Panorama. So it's a huge time saver. We also do know that these reports do tend to change over time quite frequently. So we'll continue to monitor what these reports look like year over year. So if there are, new questions or any changes whatsoever to these reports, excuse me, we will update the data warehouse within Panorama to accommodate that, because we certainly want to make sure that these reporting dashboards are always up to date for our customers. They're never obsolete, because again, this is something that, while it might not be the most exciting thing you can do in Panorama, we still do recognize these national reports as kind of one of the major bases that we have to cover for our customers. We want you to be able to do so much more interesting and meaningful work with your library data within the platform. But we also want to save you some time and sanity, hopefully, with things like our iPads and ACRL dashboards as well. And ultimately, the kinds of things that we would love for our customers to be able to do are things like this. For those libraries out there, and this is just really just a kind of an optional example, but we have been working with a number of libraries that are interested in student outcomes or learning analytics. They want to be able to show the value of their library to the administration, just to kind of demonstrate the value by looking at how can we tell a story about user engagement with our library, and what impact is that having on things like student success or research output or things like that. There's so many ideas within this realm that we are continuing to work on within Panorama. So when it comes to learning analytics, it's certainly an optional area of reporting. We know that not every library is interested in doing this, but I just wanted to show this. This is really a very early kind of proof of concept build. of a student outcomes dashboard to show you what's possible and kind of where we're heading with the platform. So this particular library was interested in learning analytics. This was a very early partner, development partner. So they helped us to build this early dashboard here. They wanted to be able to tell that story of, what impact is their library having on student outcomes. And so what you're seeing here is a dashboard that's pulling in data from 3 different sources. We're pulling in circulation data from Alma. We are pulling in easy proxy transaction log data. And we're also pulling in grade data from Banner. So this is spring of 2020. There wasn't a whole lot of physical circulation going on, but there was a lot of electronic activity. So really the idea behind this dashboard here, this particular iteration, was to try to come up with, to be able to connect student engagement or patron engagement with the library, and what impact does that have on student grades in this case. So we're pulling in grade point average data out of Banner. And of course, when it comes to things like student outcomes, that's really only one metric of many that might be important to a library to really be able to determine, what ultimately does determine things like student success. What does that mean? This is really only one metric, and if you wanted to, you could certainly add additional data points in here around things like reference appointments or retention, things like time to graduation. So just try to imagine this dashboard built out in a much more robust way. It's certainly possible. But doing something like this can help a library identify, maybe help them identify groups of students that are maybe, I don't want to say falling behind, but maybe if they're not really engaging with the library as much and they're not getting high grades, maybe that can help a library to identify that group and kind of target them for additional information literacy, training sessions, or other kinds of interventions that you might be more familiar with. So things like this as well are possible within Panorama. This was really one of the earliest kind of driving motivations behind building a tool like Panorama, not just to see how your resources are being used and how your budget is being spent over the course of the year, but also to try to show the value of the library to other entities on campus by being able to do the kinds of analysis, this kind of analysis within the platform as well. So with that, I tried to cover a wide range of different use cases and different dashboards and data sources. There's certainly a lot more to be said about Panorama. We'd certainly be happy to meet with anybody who's interested in this, or if you have any other questions. I know I've talked a lot here, but with that, I'm happy to take a breath and answer any questions that you have. So thank you so much for your time and your attention today. I really appreciate it.
Robert, thank you. What a great overview of the tool and all of the amazing use cases that you can apply it to. I really think that this is the kind. It's been a long time since I was on the ground as an e-resources librarian. I've been at WiLS for a while now, but it's the kind of tool that I sure wish I had access to 10 years ago when I was
Yeah,
doing some of this work. So
yeah,
I can only imagine that it's getting a lot of attention among libraries around the country.
yeah.
Um, I put a message in chat earlier to folks who are in the live session. If you want to ask a question, feel free to drop a message in chat or raise your hand. I can unmute you if anybody wants to ask a question by voice. I haven't seen any questions come in up to this point.
Okay.
So of course, I will reiterate that anybody who's watching the recording after the fact, feel free to reach out to us here. Feel free to reach out to folks at EBSCO. I know that they'll be delighted to hear from you and answer any questions that you might have about Panorama. I don't see anything having come in, so I feel like maybe we're good, but I will say thank you again to Robert for being here with us today. Robert, Paula, any final words you'd like to say before we wrap up for the day?
No, just let us know if there's anything we can do at EBSCO to help. And if you would like Robert to do a personal demonstration, I know that he would be more than happy to work with you and your library to see if Panorama might make sense for all of you. So please
Yep.
let either Daniel or me know. Thank you very much, Jeff. As always, you're a great host. And Robert, thank you very much also.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much for inviting us back. It's a real, always a pleasure. So thank you for that.
Well, same here. All right. Well, it's thank yous all around. So I think we're good to wrap up for the day. Please reach out and stay tuned. EBSCO will be back again next month. Boy, again, I should have the date at hand. Maybe the 11th. It's a
I think
Thursday.
so.
Thursday in April, that's I think the second week of April, we'll have EBSCO back to show us another cool resource available to our members. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Bye
Take
all.
care.